I'm with Shulie Hasten from the Western Wall Heritage Foundation. Now, Shulie, can you explain to us exactly what is the Western Wall?
Well, the Western Wall is actually one of the 4 retaining walls that King Herod had built here 2,000 years ago in building up this huge complex that would hold the Second Temple that he renovated, as I said, about 2,000 years ago. It's the remaining wall with the majority of the original stones still there.
So it's not actually the temple itself, but it's the wall for the temple to be built on.
Exactly. It's a retaining wall that surrounds Mount Moriah, which is where the holy site is, where the temple, the first temple was and the second temple was, and then Herod just wanted to enlarge the space, and so basically built kind of like a box over it so that he can have a larger space on top to build a magnificent new temple.
Why is this place a sacred site for Jews to come and pray?
So this site is very sacred because, first of all, for the past 2,000 years since the temple was destroyed, it's our link. It's what's left from the temple from that time period. So it's our closest connection to this site, to what is the holiest place for the Jewish people. And really for 2,000 years, it's where Jews from all over the world have dreamed of coming back here to visit these stones.
So there are tunnels underneath. When did these come about? Were they discovered?
So the tunnels are the work of basically archaeologists from, several different time periods. The actual Western Wall tunnel that people go through today is the work of the Israeli archaeologists after the Six-Day War. That really, it doesn't go under the Temple Mount. It goes alongside the Western Wall that goes from the south to the northern end. So it just basically takes the people to be able to visit the Western Wall and touch the stones going all the way to its northern end. The Western Wall is 488 meters long, and the part that we're very used to seeing outside is only a very small part of that.
So these tunnels had to be excavated. Was there sand and stone and things, and you had to dig all that out to actually be able to go walk through the tunnels?
Yeah, it had filled in over the years, obviously, over the many years that have passed, and so it's been excavated, and the work here is ongoing all the time, the archaeological work.
So are you still finding things today and finding new tunnels that you didn't really know that were there?
Finding new, sometimes tunnels, sometimes different things. But the tunnel is actually, it's a tunnel today because the Muslim quarter is above it. But beforehand, it was the open plaza part of the market that was next to the Western Wall.
How big is the biggest stone that's in the Temple Mount structure?
The biggest stone is over 13 meters long. Its weight is about 570 tons.
Now, people put prayers into the wall. What happens to those prayers once because obviously there are going to be loads and loads of prayers there. What happens to them?
So twice a year, they're actually literally hand-picked with a wooden stick, because even back in the temple days and even before the temple, in the tabernacle days, you weren't allowed to use metal against, iron against the stone, the holy stone. And so a wooden rod is taken to take the stones out, to take the notes out, and those notes are actually buried in what's called gnizah, which is a part of a Jewish cemetery where all of the holy articles that are no longer in use are buried. These are people's prayers, and so they're holy, and so that's where the people's notes end up.
So why do they bury them, and do they also bury like Bibles? If rather than just throw a Bible in the garbage, do they bury that as well?
100%. Even if your prayer book, if a page falls out, you wouldn't throw it in the garbage, you'd bury it in this area of the cemetery.
So the Western Wall sees those prayers as sacred?
Absolutely.
Is the wall inspected for safety every year?
Yes, the wall is inspected for safety, in general, the whole area. The Western Wall Heritage Foundation is basically in charge of the cleanliness of the site, the bathrooms, the water, the lighting, for all of the many millions of visitors that come, and as well as the archaeology and the education, all the educational programs that take place here.
Is there a rabbi who comes and looks after the spiritual need of the people when they come to the wall?
Rabbi Shmuel Rabinovich is the rabbi of the Western Wall and all of the holy sites of Israel, and he was appointed as such by the chief rabbinate of the state of Israel. So he would be in charge.
Is there a part of the wall that's more holy and more special than other parts?
So there is inside, actually, if you do the tunnel tour, there's a spot in the tunnel tour that is exactly across from where the Holy of Holies stood in the actual temple, which stood above the foundation stone, which is our holiest point of Mount Moriah. And so that spot of the Western Wall is considered more holy, but,
Is that a specific place where people direct their prayers there because they know it's more holy and it is closer to where the Holy of Holies would have been?
Yeah, so there are people that visit that site all day long, basically. They sit there and pray. And people who are more in tune with exactly the direction of where the Holy of Holies was, even when they stand outside and pray, you might notice that they're a little bit turned to the left to be in line with where the Holy of Holies stood on the Temple Mount.
What's it like for you seeing people coming to the Western Wall to pray?
So for me, it's like coming home. I mean, this is the place where there's a closest connection for me, at least I can say, to God. And even this morning, I was there praying, and just to be surrounded by people from all walks of life, from all streams of Judaism, and from non-Jewish people as well, who feel this, significance and this pull, this magnetic pull to the Western Wall.
Now, we obviously have people from all around the world coming to pray at the Western Wall. Do you ever get notes or letters back saying how God has answered their prayer?
So, first of all, there are notes that I don't know exactly because I don't know where that would go, but there are notes that are sent to the Western Wall Heritage Site, about 10,000 a week. And there's actually someone who transcribes them in very, very, very small print, because people from all over the world can't always get to the Western Wall to place their note themselves. Someone is in charge of getting all of those notes written very small print so that no one would be able to read them, so that the privacy of the person praying is ensured, and they're placed as well in these stones of the Western Wall.
Is it an ambition in Judaism to come and pray at the wall?
It's an ambition in Judaism to come to Jerusalem. And for us, Jerusalem, the most significant site of Judaism, is in Jerusalem and the temple. And since no longer we have the temple, so then yes, for, as I said, 2,000 years, this is the place that people just prayed and clung to. If you listen to people who survived the Holocaust, it was always the dream to be able to come to Jerusalem to pray at the Western Wall.
What does the Western Wall Heritage Foundation do here?
So as I said, they're in charge of all of the day-to-day, the basic needs of the wall, the cleanliness and the maintenance, but also the archaeology, the archaeological work, and all of the educational programs and all the visitors that come here. They're in charge of everything basically that takes place here at this site.
Do they do special projects for like young people, schools, and people coming in?
Absolutely. Every school at some point during the education, every school-age child will at one point visit this site. Soldiers will at some point in their service visit this site. There are programs for Holocaust survivors who've never had a bar or bat mitzvah to come here to the site and have that experience as well, even though they're well into their 80s and 90s and they come here. This site, basically anyone, many educational programs that are geared for this site. Students, from tourists who come here, there are many programs and different tours as well that take place here.
Now, you mentioned bar mitzvah. I was going to ask, is this site and is this a place to come to have your bar mitzvah?
This is a very popular site to have your bar mitzvah. If you come here on Mondays and Thursdays, which is the day that the Torah scroll is taken out to be read from, you'll see multiple bar and bat mitzvahs taking place here at the Western Wall, and of course on Shabbat as well. This is the prime location for bar mitzvahs, for people who want to do there.
Is a bar mitzvah for a young boy who's 13, is this the very first time he gets to touch the scriptures and to read the scriptures?
It's the first time that that he can read. It might not be the first time that he's read, but it's the first time that he is now an adult, a man that can read it for and basically be responsible for all of the people that he's reading for.
That must be very special for him to be actually at the Western Wall and reading for the first time in public to his peers.
Very special, very special. My own son did it. Yeah, it's a very special experience that stays ingrained.
Are you excavating new things at the moment here?
There are sites going on all the time, yes. There are archaeologists at work here.
Do you find special things actually here as well?
Yeah, just not so long ago, they found an Odeon, a small theater that Josephus Flavius had written about and that explorers had been looking for quite some time. And not so long ago, they found it right near the Western Wall. So that was an extraordinary find.
I imagine you get a lot of famous people who come down here to pray at the wall as well.
Yes, we get many presidents, prime ministers, all different types of diplomats, actors, actresses, many, many different types of famous people. There's a log on the Western Wall Heritage Site that basically chronicles everyone who comes to the wall.
Is it exciting for you to come here every day to work but also pray?
Yeah, I have to say that, I'm a tour guide in general, and this site, I can say it stays special every single time you come here. There's a different meaning every time you come here. It has a special place in my heart.
And do you have a synagogue here inside the Western Wall tunnels as well?
So the Western Wall outside the plaza area is basically the largest synagogue, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But inside as well, there is a synagogue that they recently just built, and there's another synagogue, a smaller synagogue that Rav Getz built. So yeah, there are different areas inside that you can pray as well.
What's your prayer for the Western Wall as people come to pray there?
My personal prayer is that it remains a very important part for all Jewish people in the world, for the people here in Israel, and of course for all the people of the world from all faiths to be able to find significance to this site.
Okay, Shulie, thank you very much.
Thank you.